we became adults. In the early years of our childhood, we were already good cartoonists. Our drawings looked like this. Or maybe like this one. The story of the disappearance of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon is one of the most disturbing cases. So much so, that this case has been fueling social networks for more than 10 years. Unfortunately, the laxity about their disappearance is a proven fact. This story is told in multiple ways, based on various hypotheses, by investigators and experts, while an important element of the investigation, taken up and disseminated on the web and social networks, has been passing before their eyes for more than a decade, without them understanding it. My book demonstrates this, but obviously nothing is moving. So I'm making this video to present you with evidence that was in Lisanne Froon's camera. Evidence that corresponds to an excerpt from my book, in order to reveal to the whole world, clarify to you, and explain to you the meaning of my research, everything that has never been explained. After more than 10 years of hypotheses of all kinds, it is time for you to become aware of the gravity of the situation. That we are dealing with a criminal who set everything up. As for Panamanian justice, it will not be able to demonstrate the opposite of what I am showing you. What a source of frustration for the investigators and the justice system of Panama, not to be able to solve the case of the disappearance of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon, but to invoke as a conclusion, to appease the families of the disappeared, to tell them that their children probably died as a result of an accident in the jungle, while they do not really know what happened to Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. It's so much simpler, so that the case appears to be closed. This decision is fraught with consequences, due to the simple fact that an accident eliminates the possibility of foul play. It does not change anything, but rather it remains an opaque case, that a serial killer walking in the jungle can only be comforted by this decision, granting him the perfect crime. Until my intervention. To disclose my thesis is to demonstrate to you in this video the diabolical darkness of the one who took the life of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. The Panamanian judiciary will, or will not, recognize the facts that I am going to mention. But you? You are free to make your own judgment. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Frederick Pires. My decision to broadcast this video is to make visible to you that which is invisible to justice and to the investigators, who have never been able to solve the mystery of the disappearance of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon in Panama. My book, 666, A l'œuvre de la bête 666, The Work of the Beast, released in June 2020, translated into several languages, was not enough to awaken the slightest interest in justice, that a psychopathic criminal manipulated this whole affair from A to Z. 10 years passed, without anything changing in terms of this story, until I intervened. The investigators are unaware that they are in possession of a crucial photo, recovered from Lisanne Froon's camera, and that this photo would demonstrate that an evil criminal left his mark on his crime. To analyze what I am going to reveal to you is to question the conclusions of the prosecutor who led the case of the disappearance of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. My decision is to make visible to you that which is invisible, in the representation of a photo that shows a tangle of branches and red plastic, placed on a rock. It had been extracted from Lisanne Froon's digital camera during the investigation. Several searches were able to find some personal belongings, and bones of the two victims. The conclusions of experts, and justice, said that Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon died probably as a result of an accident. This photo is in the middle of a large number of photos taken at night. They are supposed to have been taken while Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon were lost in the jungle. The question is, however, why are these branches evident on the rock if the photographs were taken at night? Other than, with the well-defined intention of the murderer, that this illustration would be discovered in the camera recovered by the investigators. These branches have no consistency in understanding the case except for the criminal aspect. The particularity of this photo is that it is the only one, and the only framed night photo, that is totally clear, of all the night photos. The murderer had chosen to arrange these branches in order to photograph his work with a precise angle, corresponding to his desire to display the demonstration of his fantasies, which only he knows. To discover what is hidden in the mystery of these branches, I had to apply myself. The paradox of cut branches. In my opinion, there are two ways to approach the composition of this photo. that of the craftsman who built these branches on the rock, and the artist who took the photo. In this case, it goes without saying that it is the same person. It took me 4 months of research to conclude that a criminal psychopath was involved in the murder of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. I do not claim to have the ultimate say on what happened, but I have no doubt that the criminal has a very good general education, and probably a high IQ, and that he set up, deceived, and manipulated this case from A to Z. As would be customary in this video, no value judgment here. Everyone has their own way of analyzing the veracity of my thesis, of giving you the means to do it, of not groping in the dark, without asking questions, of having a correct vision. But what if you agree with my thesis? Then you'll have moved on to something else. Something evil. That is part of the one who took the lives of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon. To reveal my thesis is a duty, in the name of Kris and Lisanne. To do nothing would be to turn my back on them. My desire to twist my neck to the rhetoric of a fatal story, that 2 young girls who would have, though their intentions, set their sights on night photos, would suggest that they would have been 2 thoughtless, stupid, and idiotic subjects, to the point of taking incoherent, silly photos, which are only the author's account of their final hours. Maybe someday, Kris and Lisanne will appear in our dreams. When the honor is returned to them, then we will have understood that the demonic 2-faced individual will have lost the game for the good of the families, and for our good. Kris Kremers, Lisanne Froon were abducted and kidnapped. Their lives were taken away by an evil criminal. This same criminal, who after taking the lives of Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon, was in possession of their belongings. He had taken the time to view the photos that were in Lisanne Froon's camera memory card. The criminal stratagem was to select 2 photos of the victims. The first, where we can make out Kris Kremers, arms spread, and the second photo, corresponding to Lisanne Froon, who gestures with her thumbs. These photos are the very last photos taken at the top of Pianista, in Boquete, Panama, before Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon disappeared into the jungle. The evil criminal never spared Kris and Lisanne. He wasn't done with the victims yet. From these 2 photos, he had taken care to recreate the silhouettes of Kris and Lisanne through the cut branches. The criminal had used Lisanne Froon's camera to take night shots. Then, he used cut branches, placed on a rock to symbolize his fantasies, to then compose this photo, taken at night with the flash, well framed, clear, and sharp, so that justice, and the investigators, would discover it in the memory of Lisanne Froon's camera. The murderer had made sure that the investigators and the prosecutor could look at this photo, without them discovering its meaning. The criminal's fantasies were to show the signature of his crime through these cut branches, without anyone being able to discover the secret. More than 10 years have passed. And yet, this photo has been viewed millions of times on social media and on television. 10 years. It may be a little too long to have not understood this photo. You must understand that I do not have 10 years ahead of me to convince you. An additional explanation that is fundamental for understanding. The branches that we see in the photo have never been seen or found on the rock that we can make out. These are branches that can be seen in the photo. A photo taken at night, then found by the investigators in the camera of Lisanne Froon, 3 months after her disappearance. All the branches represented in the photo have a meaning. To lead you to discover Kris and Lisanne through these branches is to show you the darkness of the criminal. I won't reveal that to you. Only the silhouettes of Kris and Lisanne, which the criminal has formed. The murderer represented Kris' head using a red bag. Lisanne's head is represented by another red bag. These red bags are the red bags attached to the branches of the night photo. The criminal also formed the letter K, the first letter of Kris Kremers' first name and last name. The letter K is colored black, then green, for the understanding of the entire illustration.
In the moments where you go unnoticed, in the ordinary day-to-day, countless miracles of life around us point like arrows to your name. Let our voices rise, all creation cries, singing out in endless hallelujah. From this moment on, join with heaven's song, singing out in endless hallelujah. Hey.
The criminal also formed the following letters, L, and the letter F, the first letters of Lisanne Froon's first and last name. The letters L and F are colored in black, then in green, for the understanding of the whole illustration. The author of the crimes relating to Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon is cynical and cruel. No one could have imagined how easily he manipulated all the people who did the research to find Kris and Lisanne, and understand what could have happened to them. My book, which has been translated into English, French, and Spanish, explains how the evil criminal manipulated and deceived investigators and justice. Praise be to you, Lord, you have put an end to their martyrdom. Their path does not end where they have disappeared. Beyond heaven, you have formed them again, precious and beautiful. Angels, birds of paradise, wonderful butterflies, starfish, everything that flies, that crawls, that walks, next to Kris and Lisanne, is an ode to life. This splendid reality into which you invite them, O Lord. You guide them into a world that only you know.